All right, guys. I just wanted to make another video. It's not going to be too long, or at least I'll try to keep it very short, inshallah. But what I want to say is that I just find it quite odd that the quote unquote divestor is up in arms about Travis Kelce choosing what probably he was going to choose, you know, from the get go. Because when you look at him, right, and the patterns, I mean, he was dating, I believe he dated more than one black woman before. And, you know, when you look at the fact that he was just dating them and not serious about them, I mean, there had to be a light bulb in your head to say, hey, this guy is not serious. He's not really, making intentional efforts because he's an athlete, a highly paid athlete. And he has his choice of the litter. And the fact of the matter is that, he chose Taylor Swift. And now you have people on TikTok, you have belligerent women who are just basically saying, oh, that's not his type. You have them saying, oh, he just went for the status that the other woman, I think her name is, I don't even remember her name. I think it's Kayla Nicole or something like that. People are looking at her, aesthetic versus Taylor Swift's aesthetic, and they're thinking that, oh, wow, he just basically went for the status. But that's not necessarily the case because when you really look at it, right, when you really look at people of, higher stature in terms of a social influence, being an athlete, be it a entertainer, I mean, you don't really see any Denedral entertainers marrying Beledral women. You don't see that. Even when they reach like the height of their careers, you don't see such a thing. I mean, I think one of the only exceptions was, but I don't know. Maybe she even chose him. I think Diana Ross married the Denedral man, if I'm not mistaken. Her daughter Tracy Ellis Ross, mixed basically. So the thing is when we look at this, right? It makes no sense for me that they're up in arms about this because it really doesn't have anything to do with them. Even when you see, for example, maybe a high status person dating a high status Denedral guy dating a Beledral woman, it's not really how should I say it, something that's on the long run, like for long term. I mean, you saw the one woman, I think her name, she was on the Jamie Foxx show, Gruvai something, she had a Denedral husband that didn't last long. So you had, these things happening, but again, they're not for the long term as they would make you believe that they are. But one thing is, right, is that the divestor will, from what I find the most, the divestor will just be so much in support of divesting so much, even when it's at the cost of her dignity. Like there was this one video I saw, and it showed basically a woman who was in a car, and then the guy said, you're pretty for a black girl. And ironically, in the comment section, there were women who supported it and were like, "Oh, how cute," and then you had her herself, which kind who supported it as well, you know. And for me, I don't know why I even bother spending energy with it. I just find it kind of funny. It doesn't really affect me at all. I'm not really affected by it. But I find it really odd that even the men who divest, or yeah, let's just say the men who divest, they'll even say, for example, that I'm playing in the mud. They'll say that. They'll say, "Oh, I'm playing in the mud," when they're pertaining to dating a belligerent woman or something like that. And I don't know if they're, I don't know if the women are hit to this, but yeah. Now another case, and then I'm gonna land soon. Another case is I want to say the Love Island show. Now I don't watch that show, and I'll never watch that show. I'm not gonna watch that show. Um, it's just, I mean, unfortunately, you have Muslim women who want to base their relationships off of that show. You know, that's the crazy thing about it. They want to do their relationships like the one on the show. Now you have another case with the guy named. Well, you've had many cases where there have been divestors, and then the guys that they want to divest with, it's only revealed later on that they are racist, right? And then you see it through text message, you see it through all these different kind of things. That, oh yeah, it turns out that the woman was just used for clout to get his name up, basically. And I'm gonna be real that the core audience of clout will be the belligerent woman, because she looks at that, and then she makes videos about it, and then she uses that as fuel to say, oh yeah, these black dudes are mad because she chose up, she upgraded, she leveled up, and things like that. They use that they use that trope all the time. So that's why these guys who are closet racists, they use these women for talking points. They use them for to get their notoriety up. So then another thing, you have, I guess, this one couple named Nick and Olandria, and she's trying her darndest to make him so far in proximity of her, to the point that she didn't even call him white, she called him fair skin. So you see that she's trying to give this impression that, oh, this guy is fair skin, versus just calling it what it is. He's a Denedral man. So with that being said, you have women in the comment section, and he even said himself, he even said that he's not even going out with her, he's not even dating her. And so I believe what it is just like a good time. Some people say, I'm not here for a long time, I'm here for a good time. That's the saying. So I think that's what's happening with her, in her regards, in her situation. Now, another thing that I want to say, that I want to get across too, is that when it comes to Islam, right, the woman is held in such high esteem because, contrary to belief, for example, Aisha radiallahu an, she narrated many hadiths. I mean, she was like faqih, she was faqih, you had different women who were good at the hadith sciences. Even one of my teachers, she's a Mauritanian woman, she taught me the Arabic grammar. So the thing is that what I'm saying is that the women is held in high esteem in Islam, and contrary to belief, we don't look at them as quote unquote deficient. What we look at it as is that, a lot of time a woman's emotion sometimes overweighs the intellect, but it doesn't mean that she's like deficient or dumb. Because, for example, when you see these women, for example, when a divestor sends a woman to the upper room, sometimes you'll see women saying, "Oh, well, this is not all of them," or "Oh, this is just a one-off case," and just all types of different things, rather than not looking at patterns, rather than not like, just kind of a lack of self-awareness, right? And so, what I'm saying is that, in my personal opinion, when you look at Islamically in history, usually when it came to quote unquote, well, they didn't call it divesting, they just called it marriage. Uh, Black women, or let's just say African women, were often like, held at high esteem in terms of marriage. I think one of Jamal al-Din al-Suyuti, he was a scholar, rahimahullah. I think one of his favorite wives was an African woman. Ali ibn Abi Talib, after the death of our mother Fatima, may Allah be more pleased with her, he married a African descendant woman, I believe. So you look at the Islamic version, and it's based off of the character, it's based off of religious values, versus when you look at like Keisha's reason for divesting, it's only based off of what she perceives is material goods and I guess status. Now, I don't know if this is true, but I heard Travis Kelce, when dating Kayla Nicole, that he only like allotted $100 a year for them. I think for her, because she didn't cook or clean or anything like that. So yeah. So I mean, there's many examples in history too of quote unquote the divesting, so to say, and that's kind of how we have the result of admixtures in different parts. Now, granted, some of it did happen over conquest. You know what I mean? But sometimes that conquest was agreement was made. Agreements were made and things like that. But there were scholars, for example, who had a preference for, like, let's just say, African women based off of merit, not just based off of, well, based off of physical appearances too, but not just based off of, oh, I gotta have some status, or oh, I gotta have this, So that's the difference between, what they did back then and what's going on right now. On a final note, for example, because because they bought into the whole thing too. Not that I care, I really don't care. I'm not really attracted to them anyway. But on Clubhouse you have rooms with Somali women talking about divesting and things like that, talking about getting with these Bosnian guys, sometimes even non-Muslim men. And it's the same talking point as the other women who divest. So all I gotta say is that this is a case where a woman's like I want to say her emotional intelligence is lowered because of her perceived admiration for what she thinks she's going to get when she gets with a Dinejo dude, you know. And ironically, these guys, these women will take the lowest Brad, you know, or take the, you know, the white, the Dinejo convert who, you know, doesn't have a pot to piss in, versus like the guy who's sound in his deen, sound in his finances, and sound in his you know, his fear of God. But you know, that's all I wanted to say. You know, I'm just gonna say it's gonna get worse. You know, every year it'll get worse. But anyhow, Foolish signing out. Leave your thoughts, leave your comments. Njawama.